It was past midnight when I heard a soft knock on my bedroom door. "Mom, can I sleep with you?" Still half asleep, I mumbled, "Of course, sweetheart." I felt the bed shift as she climbed in beside me, her small, warm body curled up next to mine under the blanket. I sighed, ready to drift back to sleep. Then, I heard a voice from down the hall. "Mom? Who are you talking to?" My breath caught in my throat. My daughter's voice, but she was in my bed? I slowly turned my head. The warmth beside me was still there, but suddenly the bed felt empty. I reached out, hesitating, my fingers brushing against the blanket. Nothing. My heart pounded as I flicked on the bedside lamp. The bed was empty, but the blanket was still indented, as if someone had just been lying there. And worse, it was sinking, as if something unseen was slipping away. I scrambled out of bed, rushing to my daughter's room. She was sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes. "Mom, why were you talking to me just now?" I didn't answer. I just hugged her tightly, my hands trembling. I never figured out what lay beside me that night. But I know one thing. The next time I hear a knock on my door at midnight, I won't answer. The bathroom felt colder than the rest of my apartment. Maybe it was just my nerves, or maybe I had left the window open earlier. I wasn't sure. But as I stepped inside, a small shiver ran down my spine. I reached for the light switch out of habit but stopped myself. No lights. That was part of the ritual. Instead, I let the soft glow from the streetlights outside filter through the blinds, casting long, pale streaks across the tiled floor. It was just enough to see my reflection in the mirror. I took a breath and stepped in front of it. There I was, dark, messy hair, tired eyes, a face I had seen 1,000 times before. Nothing unusual, nothing strange. I stared at myself, waiting for something. Seconds passed, then a minute. Nothing happened. I let out a small chuckle. What did I expect? That my reflection would wave at me? Whisper my name? Crawl out of the glass like some horror movie ghost? This was ridiculous. I reached up to rub my tired eyes, and my reflection didn't move. I froze. For half a second, just a fraction of a moment, my reflection had remained still while I moved. Then, as if catching up, it copied my action a beat later. My breath caught in my throat. My heart slammed against my ribs. It had to be a trick. My mind was playing with me. Shadows, bad lighting, sleep deprivation. I had spent too much time reading scary stories, and now my brain was seeing things that weren't there. But then, my reflection blinked, and I hadn't. A cold, electric terror shot through my entire body. I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to turn away, to break eye contact with that thing in the mirror. But then I remembered the rule. Do not move. Do not look away. And above all, do not turn your back on it. So I stayed frozen, barely breathing, locked in a silent stare with the thing that wore my face. And then, very slowly, smiled. I should have run. I should have slammed the door, locked myself inside my bedroom, and never looked back. But I didn't. I was paralyzed, unable to tear my eyes away from the mirror. The thing in front of me, the reflection, it was still smiling, a grin that was wide enough to send a shiver through my spine. It wasn't a normal smile, not the kind of smile you make when you're happy or content. No, this was something far darker. The smile twisted unnaturally, like it had been carved into its face with sharp, jagged edges, stretching too far at the corners. Its eyes didn't blink anymore. They just stared, cold and empty. And then, the worst part, it started to move. At first, it was subtle. Its hand reached up, slowly, way too slowly, towards its face. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my chest, louder with each second. The hand of my reflection was closer now, brushing against the skin of its cheek, just like mine was. But when the reflection's fingers moved down to its lips, it didn't stop. It pressed its fingers against the smile, pressed, as if it was holding it in place, forcing it to stay, to stretch, to grow. The reflection was controlling its smile, pulling it wider. That wasn't normal. That was impossible. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I was trapped in the nightmare of my own image, forced to watch as the thing in the mirror played with me. I dared not move. The rules were clear. Never break the connection. But as the reflection in the mirror twisted its smile even further, something snapped inside me. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't understand what was happening. I pulled away from the mirror, breaking the rule, and stumbled back, gasping for air. For a moment, the thing in the reflection was just still. It didn't move. It didn't smile. It just stared. And then I heard it. A voice. Not mine. Not the reflection's. A whisper. So quiet, so soft, that I thought I imagined it at first. You can't escape me. I spun around, breathless, looking frantically for the source of the sound. But there was nothing. The room was empty. The bathroom door was closed behind me. The only thing that remained was the mirror, and my reflection, now empty of the smile, but still staring. And that voice, that whisper, continued to echo in my mind. You can't escape me. I slammed the bathroom door shut, trembling, my skin crawling as if invisible hands were dragging across it. But then I heard something else. A tapping. It was coming from the mirror. The tapping grew louder, like someone was knocking. No, someone was scratching from inside the glass. I couldn't understand. I ran out of the bathroom, slamming the door behind me, but the sound of the scratching followed. Every step I took, it was there, scratching. I grabbed my phone from the counter and dialed the first number that came to mind, Mom. But before I could hit the call button, I heard it again. A voice. I'm still here. And this time, it didn't come from the bathroom. It came from behind me. I froze. I turned slowly, and I saw myself standing in the hallway behind me. I thought I was losing my mind. There, in the dim hallway, was me. My reflection, standing perfectly still, watching me with those same vacant eyes, the same unsettling grin. Couldn't breathe. My heart felt like it was trapped in my throat. How is this possible? I was standing right here, looking at the hallway, and yet, there I was, behind me. The real me should have been looking at that mirror, still standing in the bathroom, terrified, trying to understand the impossible situation I was in. But no, the me in front of me was alive and staring. I swallowed hard and took a cautious step back. I didn't want to provoke it, but at the same time, I couldn't stand there and do nothing. Every instinct in my body screamed for me to run, but my legs felt like lead. I was paralyzed. The reflection, no, the other me, didn't move. It didn't even blink. But there was something different. A strange aura of malevolent presence surrounded it, like it wasn't a reflection anymore. It was alive, and somehow it was aware of me. I couldn't take my eyes off it. The moment I dared to look away, I knew it would be gone, vanishing without a trace, slipping back into whatever hellish dimension it had come from. I had to act. I needed to do something. I grabbed the nearest object I could find, my phone, still in my trembling hand, and pointed it at the figure. My fingers fumbled as I opened the camera app, knowing it was insane, but at this point, what wasn't? I had to capture it to prove to myself that this was real. But as soon as I aimed the camera at the reflection of myself in the hallway, something changed. The figure smiled again, that same twisted, jagged smile. Its eyes widened, glowing now, flickering with an unsettling light that made my pulse race. I backed away further, shaking, but the figure mirrored my every movement. It was copying me, the smile, the eyes, the movements. It was getting closer, and each step I took away from it, the reflection took an even quicker step toward me, inching closer. It was only a matter of time before it was right behind me. I tried to call out, but my voice caught in my throat. What was this? Why was it copying me? And why was it getting so aggressive? I needed to get out of there. I turned to run, but as I moved, I heard something I couldn't ignore. The voice, that low, ominous whisper, was now coming from the reflection, from the hallway, not the bathroom anymore. I'm right behind you. I froze mid-step, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. There was no way I was imagining it now. That voice wasn't from inside my head. It was coming from it. The thing that looked like me. And it was right there. Without thinking, I darted down the hallway, running for the front door. I had to get out. I had to escape. The door was just ahead, only a few feet away, but the reflection, it was still there, stalking behind me in the hallway. I could feel it. I could hear it breathing. It was catching up. I reached the door, grabbed the handle, and pulled it open, my hand shaking uncontrollably. But as soon as I stepped outside, I heard the unmistakable sound of a door slamming shut behind me. I turned around, panting. The door was still open. I hadn't closed it, and there was no one on the other side. But something was wrong. The air felt heavier, colder. And then I saw it. The reflection. It wasn't in the hallway anymore. It was out here, outside with me, standing just at the edge of the driveway, its eyes staring, that grin still frozen on its face. But this time it wasn't alone. There were more of them, dozens. They were scattered across the yard, in the shadows of the trees, their pale faces glowing faintly in the dark. Every single one of them was smiling, just like me, just like it. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I was frozen in place, staring at the growing number of reflections, all closing in on me. And the worst part? They weren't stopping. They were coming closer, step by step, each one moving as I moved. "We're coming for you." The whispers were louder now, and the smile on each face was more twisted than the last. And then I heard it, a familiar voice. "Don't worry, you won't have to do it alone." I turned slowly, my blood running cold, and there it was again. A new reflection, this time in front of me. My own face, but with no eyes. Just hollow, empty sockets, staring back at me with a terrible, silent scream. And then I knew. There was no escaping it. It was already inside me. Couldn't breathe. The cold air clung to my skin, making it hard to focus. The faces, the reflections, they were everywhere now, surrounding me. I tried to step back, but every direction I turned, there was another one of me, watching, smiling, their eyes empty of humanity. And the voice, always the voice whispering in my ear, calling my name. "You're not alone anymore." I spun around, desperately searching for some way out, but I was trapped. The driveway had stretched into an endless maze of trees and shadows. The night had swallowed everything, and in the darkness, they were watching. I thought of running, but it was hopeless. The reflections, no, the other me's weren't just mimicking my movements now. They were becoming more real, more tangible. I could feel their cold presence at the edges of my mind, an oppressive weight pressing down on me with each step I took. The new reflection, the one with the hollow eyes, stepped closer. It moved as if it were made of smoke, a dark shadow creeping toward me. The smile on its face was sickeningly wide, stretching impossibly, a grotesque mockery of my own face. "We are you," it whispered, its voice somehow coming from everywhere at once. "And we are finally free." I couldn't think straight. Fear clouded my thoughts, making everything feel distant and unreal. How was this happening? How was it possible that I was surrounded by versions of myself, each more twisted, more distorted than the last? My heart hammered in my chest as I stumbled backward. I wanted to scream, but my voice betrayed me. The whispers grew louder, overwhelming. I couldn't escape them, couldn't drown them out. I turned and ran. My feet pounded the ground, the sound of my own footsteps mingling with the whispers of my reflections, echoing in the dark. The road ahead was a blur. I just needed to escape, but there was nowhere to go. As I ran, the figures followed, closing in on me. Their twisted grins and hollow eyes seemed to stretch longer, their hands reaching out, fingers like claws. I could feel them growing closer, and I could hear them calling out to me. "You can't run from yourself." It was a cruel reminder, one that gnawed at my sanity. I didn't know what was real anymore. I didn't know if I was running toward salvation or straight into the hands of whatever nightmare I had stumbled into. I had to face it. I had to face them. Suddenly, everything stopped. The world went quiet. The whispers ceased. The reflections halted their pursuit, standing still as statues. The air hung heavy, thick with an unseen force. I looked around, panting, my body trembling. "It's over." The voice spoke again, but this time it wasn't from the reflections. It was from deep inside me, a voice that didn't belong to me, but it was my voice all the same. I didn't understand. What did that mean? But before I could make sense of it, I felt a sharp pain in my chest, like something was ripping me open from the inside. My breath caught, and for the first time, I felt an unbearable weight, as though the very essence of who I was being pulled from me. I looked down, my hands shaking as I reached up to my chest, and that's when I saw it. There, in the reflection of the moonlight, my hands were dark, shadowy, as though they no longer belonged to me. Slowly, they began to fade. The outlines of my hands blurred, as if they were dissipating into nothingness. The reflection with the hollow eyes was smiling wider than ever. "This is your end. You are already gone." I couldn't fight it anymore. The last shred of my identity, my humanity, was slipping away, like sand through my fingers. My vision blurred, the world around me fading. They had won. The reflections didn't need me anymore. I was just a shell, a shadow, an empty vessel for them to fill. I could feel them, feel the others, pushing inside me, becoming me, as they absorbed everything I had ever been. I was no longer the person I had been when I walked into this nightmare. I was something else now, something other. And then, just as the last sliver of my mind slipped into darkness, I heard the voice again. "We are one now. It was over. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new chilling tale. Stay tuned for more spine-tingling stories coming your way soon. If you want more creepy stories, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss a scary update.
Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone is watching you? What if you heard a voice, one you love and trust, but something isn't right? This is the story of a mother and daughter, and the night that changed everything. Stay until the end if you dare. And don't forget to subscribe for more terrifying stories lurking in the shadows.
I woke up to a soft knock on my bedroom door. At first, I thought I had imagined it, but then it came again, 3 quiet, hesitant taps. I blinked, trying to shake off the haze of sleep. The clock on my nightstand glowed 2:37 a.m. My daughter, Lisa, must have had another nightmare. Rubbing my eyes, I called out, "Sweetie? What's wrong?" A small voice came from the other side of the door. "Mom, can I sleep with you?" I sighed. Lisa had always been a little afraid of the dark, though she was getting better about it. Usually she just clutched her stuffed rabbit and toughed it out. Tonight must have been different. I reached over and turned on the bedside lamp, casting a soft glow around the room. "Of course, baby," I said, pulling back the covers. "Come in." The doorknob turned with a soft click and the door creaked open. Lisa's small figure stepped inside, her little feet barely making a sound on the wooden floor. She didn't say anything, just crawled into bed beside me, burying her face into my side. I wrapped an arm around her, feeling the warmth of her tiny body. "Bad dream," I murmured. She nodded against my shoulder. "It's okay now," I whispered, stroking her hair. "Mommy's here." She didn't reply. Her breathing was slow, steady. And then, from down the hall in her bedroom, I heard Lisa's voice. "Mom? Who are you talking to?" A chill ran down my spine. I turned my head. The child beside me was perfectly still. And then I felt it, a slow, deliberate breath against my neck. My entire body went cold. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The weight of my daughter, or whatever this was, pressed against my side. My mind screamed at me to react, to turn my head, to look at whatever was lying next to me. But some primal fear kept me frozen. Down the hall, the real Lisa's voice came again, small and confused. "Mom, are you awake?" My mouth was dry. My hands trembled against the sheets. If Lisa was in her room, then who was in my bed? Swallowing the rising panic in my throat, I forced my lips to move. "Elisa," I whispered. The thing beside me shifted. The bed creaked. Slowly my eyes flicked down. The covers on my bed were perfectly smooth. I felt the warmth, I felt the weight, but there was no visible imprint. No indentation where a small body should have been. And yet I could still feel it breathing. I didn't dare look. Instead, I reached out, shaking, to my nightstand and flicked on the lamp. Light flooded the room. The weight vanished. The warmth disappeared. I gasped and bolted upright. The bed was empty. The sheets untouched. As if no one had ever been there at all. But I knew what I felt. My heart hammered as I threw the blankets off and stumbled toward the hallway. My feet felt unsteady, like I wasn't entirely in control of my body. Lisa's bedroom door was open just a crack. With trembling hands, I pushed it open wider. She was sitting up in bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit to her chest, eyes wide and frightened. "Mom, why were you whispering?" she asked in a small voice. "And who was in your room?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Because I didn't know the answer. I hesitated in the doorway, my pulse pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Lisa clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter, her small fingers digging into its worn fur. The dim glow of her nightlight cast soft shadows on the walls, making the room feel eerily still. "Mom." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why were you talking to someone?" I forced a smile, trying to steady my voice. "Sweetheart, you must have been dreaming." She shook her head, her messy curls bouncing with the movement. "I wasn't dreaming. I heard you. You said my name." I swallowed. She wasn't lying. I had said her name, but I wasn't talking to her. For a split second, I considered telling her everything, that something had been in my bed, breathing against me, speaking to me in her voice. But I couldn't. I had to be strong for her. "It was just a bad dream, honey." I stepped into the room and sat beside her on the bed, running a hand over her hair. "Everything is okay." Lisa didn't look convinced. Her little hands twisted in the blanket, her gaze flickering toward the open door. "Then why is it still here?" she whispered. A cold chill rushed down my spine. I turned my head sharply, following her gaze. The hallway was dark. But then I heard it. A soft rustling sound. A whisper of fabric brushing against fabric. It came from my bedroom. I stood up quickly, my breath catching in my throat. My instincts screamed at me to stay, to close the door, to hide. But I couldn't let this thing linger in my house. I had to see. Forcing my feet to move, I stepped into the hallway, my bare soles pressing against the cool wooden floor. Each step felt like walking into a nightmare, like I was willingly dragging myself into something I shouldn't be seeing. The whisper came again. "Close it." I reached my bedroom door. The light from my lamp still cast a soft glow across the sheets. Everything looked exactly as I had left it. The blankets were slightly ruffled from when I had jumped out of bed, my pillow indented from where my head had rested. But then, something moved. The closet door was open, just a crack. And from inside, came a slow, shallow breath. I stopped breathing. Lisa's voice echoed in my mind. "Why is it still here?" My hand trembled as I reached for the closet handle. I didn't want to open it, but something told me it was already too late. I stood frozen, my hand hovering just inches from the closet handle. The shallow breath from inside was slow, deliberate, like it was waiting for me to make a move. The air around me felt heavy, pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. My instincts screamed at me to run, to grab Lisa and get out of this house. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Instead, my fingers closed around the handle. My palm was clammy, slick with sweat. I had to know. I had to see. I pulled the door open in one swift motion. The light from my lamp spilled into the closet, illuminating nothing. The closet was empty. Neatly hung clothes. Stacks of folded blankets. The usual mess of shoes on the floor. No one was there. For a moment, relief flooded through me. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe my half-asleep brain had conjured the sound, the whisper, the breath. And then I noticed the blankets. The pile on the top shelf was slightly disturbed, as if something had just been there, watching me. A sharp knock sounded from Lisa's room. I spun around so fast I nearly lost my balance. My heart pounded as I ran back down the hall. "Lisa." My voice came out hoarse, breathless. She was sitting up in bed, wide-eyed. "Mom." Her voice was barely above a whisper. I heard something. It knocked on my wall. I swallowed hard. Her bed was against the far wall, which meant the knock had come from inside the house. I forced a smile, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's just the house settling, sweetheart." She shook her head. "No. It was closer. I hesitated. Closer. Lisa looked past me toward the door. It came from behind you. A slow, creeping chill crawled up my spine. I turned my head just slightly, just enough to see down the hall. My bedroom door was still open. The closet door now fully ajar. And from the darkness inside, two glowing eyes stared back at me. My breath hitched in my throat. Those eyes, cold, unblinking, locked onto mine from the darkness of my bedroom closet. I wanted to run. Every nerve in my body screamed for me to move, to grab Lisa and get out of the house. But my legs wouldn't obey. Lisa tugged at my shirt. "Mom, what's wrong?" I swallowed hard, forcing myself to keep my voice calm. "Stay here, sweetheart." She clung to me tighter. "Mom, don't go." But I had to. I had to end this. I took a step toward my bedroom. The floor creaked beneath my feet, the sound deafening in the suffocating silence. The eyes never wavered. I reached the doorframe and slowly, so slowly, moved my hand toward the light switch. A whisper crawled through the air. "Don't." A deep, primal terror shot through me, but I clenched my jaw and flicked the switch. The room flooded with light. The closet was empty. No eyes. No figure. Just my clothes, my belongings. Nothing. A sharp bang echoed through the house. Lisa screamed. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs. The noise had come from the front door. Someone or something had slammed against it. I ran back to Lisa, scooping her into my arms as I rushed toward the door. My fingers fumbled with the locks, my breath coming in short gasps. I yanked the door open. The night was still. The empty street stretched before me, bathed in the dull glow of the streetlights. There was no one there. And yet, as I stood in the doorway clutching Lisa, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. Something inside the house. I turned back, staring into the darkened hallway. The open door to my room. The empty closet. Lisa whispered into my ear. "Mom, it's still here." I didn't sleep that night. And I never left my closet door open again. What would you do if you heard your child's voice, but knew they were in another room? Some nightmares don't end when you wake up. If this story sent chills down your spine, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. More horrors are coming, and next time, it might be your story.
Have you ever heard of Crooked Grove? That abandoned psychiatric hospital no one dares to enter? We were fools to think it was just a scary story. We went there to film a regular paranormal stream. Cameras, EMF meters, live chat. Everything was going according to plan until the nightmare began. If you love creepy stories, mysterious secrets, and real horror, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. More chilling tales are coming soon. Now, turn off the lights and get ready. We're starting. Oh, where's that time? When we were young, full of enthusiasm, when the world seemed like an open book, full of adventures and opportunities. We were streamers. Yes, now it sounds like something from a past life, as if it didn't happen to me, but to someone else. But that's how it was. We made videos for YouTube, mostly about paranormal phenomena. And you know, at first it was fun. We explored abandoned houses, deserted factories, told scary stories, scared each other, tried to find at least something unusual, something that could hook viewers and bring us fame. Our team was small but close-knit. There was Max, our unofficial leader, the idea generator, and the eternal driving force. He was obsessed with everything mystical and paranormal. He believed in anything that even slightly went beyond the ordinary. Then there was Lisa. Lisa was a skeptic to the core. She always tried to explain everything scientifically, rationally, from the perspective of physics and chemistry. But even she, I think, deep down, believed in something greater. She was our tech expert. Without her, no camera would work, no microphone would turn on. And there was Alex. Poor Alex. He was the quietest among us. A newcomer. He just followed us, filming everything with the camera. I think he was a little scared, but he tried not to show it. And then one fine day, or rather, one gloomy day, Max got obsessed with the idea of visiting the Crooked Grove. He read about it in some old blog on the internet. Crooked Grove was an abandoned psychiatric hospital. It was located somewhere in the wilderness, far from the city. They said that terrible experiments were conducted on the patients there, that they were tortured, crippled, broken. and that the souls of these unfortunate people still roam the hospital's corridors, seeking peace and revenge. Crooked Grove. The name itself already sounded ominous, didn't it? I remember how we drove there, along that narrow, winding road through the forest. It was dark, foggy, and it felt like the trees were watching us as if they were alive. Even then, at that moment, I had a bad feeling. But we were young and foolish. We didn't pay attention to things like that. We thought we were the smartest, the bravest, that we could handle anything. Of course, we had heard the warnings from the locals. They said it was better not to go to Crooked Grove, that the place was cursed, that people disappeared there. You know, those typical village superstitions. Naturally, we laughed at them. We thought it was just stories to scare tourists. Now I realize that we should have listened to those old people. They knew. They felt the evil that lurked in Crooked Grove, but we were too arrogant, too hungry for fame. And that was our downfall. We were preparing for the stream as if we were launching a spaceship. Seriously, Max scoured the entire internet, searching for any information about the Crooked Grove. He read old newspaper articles, forums, blogs. He even found some old building maps and floor plans. He was obsessed with this place. He was convinced that something incredible awaited us there, something that would change our understanding of the paranormal. Lisa, as always, was grumbling. She didn't like this idea. She kept saying it was too dangerous, that we could get into trouble, that we might get arrested for trespassing on private property. But deep down, I think she was intrigued too. She had always wanted to test her knowledge in practice, to prove that science could explain everything. We bought all the necessary equipment, new night vision cameras, powerful flashlights, microphones capable of picking up the faintest sounds, EMF meters, thermal cameras, a whole arsenal for ghost hunting. We even bought some amulets and charms, just in case, though we laughed about it. Max insisted. You never know what might come in handy, he said. I remember how we set up the cameras, how Lisa fussed with the wires, how Alex checked the battery charges. Everyone was focused, excited. The tension in the air was palpable. We planned the stream very carefully, outlining every step, every corner we were going to explore. We decided to start with the old operating room, then go down to the basement, where, according to rumors, the most terrifying experiments had taken place. Max wanted to find something that would prove that something truly horrific had happened in the Crooked Grove. And then, on the day of the stream, something felt off. I remember waking up with a strange sense of unease. My heart was pounding, my palms were sweaty. I had this feeling that something bad was going to happen. I tried to shake it off, convince myself it was just nerves before the stream. But the feeling stayed with me all day. We met at Max's place, loaded all the equipment into the car, and set off. The road felt endless. The sun was already setting when we arrived at the Crooked Grove. And you know, the moment I saw it, a chill ran down my spine. It looked eerie grim, as if a cursed shadow had fallen over it. But we couldn't turn back. We had prepared for this stream for too long. We had too much at stake. We had to go through with it. Now I realize that something truly horrifying awaited us that night. But back then, we were too blinded by the desire for fame, too caught up in our insane plan. We didn't see the danger, and it cost us dearly. As we pulled up to the Crooked Grove, a chill ran down my spine. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't ordinary fear. It was something deeper, something more primal. As if the place itself radiated a kind of malevolent energy, a hatred that seeped into my soul. It looked like it had crawled out of a nightmare, abandoned, half-ruined, with shattered windows that resembled empty eye sockets, staring at us in silent reproach. A thick fog blanketed everything around us, making it look even more sinister. We stepped out of the car, gathered our equipment, and approached the gate. It was locked, but old and rusted. Max easily pushed it open, as if inviting us into this world of horror. At that moment, I felt as if we had crossed an invisible line, a point of no return. We stepped onto the hospital grounds. The silence was deafening. No birds, no rustling leaves, nothing. Only the quiet crunch of gravel under our footsteps. The cold cut through our clothes, reaching deep into our bones. I felt something watching me. Invisible eyes, following our every move. We turned on the cameras and started the stream. We tried to joke, to ease the tension. but the laughter felt forced, unnatural. Then, we enter the main building. Inside, it was even worse than outside. Darkness, the stench of mold and dampness, crumbling plaster, cracked walls. It felt like time had stopped here, like the hospital was trapped in some nightmarish past. We began exploring the rooms. Everywhere, there were signs of decay and abandonment, rusty beds, torn mattresses, scraps of clothing. I imagined the patients who had once lived here, their suffering, their deaths. A deep unease settled in my chest. We walked down a long corridor when, suddenly, we heard something. A whisper. A soft, eerie murmur. I stopped and listened. The whisper grew louder, forming words I couldn't quite understand. And then, I swore I heard my name. Lisa, as always, tried to rationalize it. She said it was the wind, an acoustic illusion, just our imagination playing tricks on us. But even she was uneasy. I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't as confident in her scientific explanations as before. Then we saw it, a shadow, flickering at the end of the corridor before vanishing. Alex, who was walking ahead, let out a startled gasp. I turned to look, but there was nothing. Only darkness. The EMF meter went wild. The needle spiked erratically, flashing like crazy. Lisa stared at the device in confusion. "Something's not right here," she muttered. At that moment, I had no idea that we weren't just dealing with ghosts. We had encountered something far more sinister. A dark force that lurked within the Crooked Grove, waiting for us, hungry to consume our souls. We had taken our first step into the abyss, and there was no turning back. After the shadow and the wildly flashing EMF meter, the atmosphere in the hospital became unbearable. We kept moving forward, as if hypnotized, deeper into this nightmare, even though every cell in my body was screaming at me to run away without looking back. And then it happened. Alex, he just disappeared. We were in an old operating room, filming the blood-stained instruments and eerie photographs when we suddenly realized that Alex was no longer with us. We called out to him, shouted his name, but there was no answer. There was only silence, cold and merciless. Max panicked. He started running around the room, yelling for Alex as if he were playing some kind of cruel joke on us. Lisa tried to calm him down, saying that maybe Alex had just stepped out for a moment. But I knew that wasn't true. I felt that something had happened to him. We started searching for him. We split up to cover more ground. I walked down the corridor, calling his name, but there was only silence in return. Then, suddenly, I heard quiet sobbing. It was coming from one of the rooms. I approached the door and peeked inside. The room was dark, but I saw her. A little girl sat on the floor in the corner, crying. She was wearing a straitjacket, and she looked at me with empty, lifeless eyes. She sobbed and whispered something, but I couldn't make out the words. I was terrified. I froze in place, unable to move. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. Suddenly, the girl lifted her head and looked straight at me. Her face was twisted with pain and suffering. She reached out a hand, as if begging for help. I stumbled back from the door and ran. I ran without looking back until I almost crashed into Lisa. She was frightened too. She said she had heard strange noises, seen a shadow moving in the darkness. We decided to return to the operating room and tell Max what we had seen. But when we entered the room, Max was gone. A chill ran down my spine. Something was wrong. Max would never leave without telling us. Something had happened. We started calling for him, but there was no response. Then we heard a noise. It was coming from the basement. We cautiously made our way down. There was a room, an abandoned room, filled with old dolls. They stared at us with empty eyes, watching our every move. Many of them had their eyes gouged out. They hung from strings attached to the ceiling, swaying gently back and forth. And then I saw him. Max was standing in the corner of the room, staring at the dolls. His face was twisted, his eyes burning with madness. He was muttering something under his breath. I can't even describe how much he had changed. He looked like someone else, something else. Malicious, possessed. At that moment, I realized that we had walked straight into a trap, into a world of darkness and insanity from which there was no escape. Crooked Grove was devouring us. I remember only screams, blood, and endless fear. Lisa tried to approach Max, to talk to him, but he was already lost. He lunged at her like a beast. letting out a wild scream. He grabbed one of the dolls from the shelf, smashed it against the wall, and began attacking Lisa with the shards. I screamed and tried to stop him, but he shoved me with such force that I fell to the floor. He was too strong, too insane. I saw Lisa collapse, her blood spreading across her face. I knew she was dead, and then I saw Alex. He stood in the doorway, watching us. There was no fear on his face, no compassion. Only an empty, lifeless smile. His eyes were black, bottomless, like portals to hell. He was broken, empty, dead inside. Crooked Grove had taken his soul, turned him into a puppet. Max turned to me. His face was covered in blood, his eyes burning with hatred. He raised a shard of the doll above his head and came toward me. I screamed and tried to run, but he was too close. He grabbed my arm and dragged me toward him. I struggled with everything I had, but he was stronger. He threw me to the ground and loomed over me. I shut my eyes, waiting for the final blow. But it never came. I opened my eyes and saw Max standing over Lisa muttering something. And next to me stood Alex, his eyes as black as the night. He smiled at me, but it wasn't his smile. It was something foreign, something unnatural. That was the moment I realized it was over. We were gone. Crooked Grove had devoured us. All of us. Max had become its servant, and Alex, like a shadow, followed him. And they wanted me to join them. And then I woke up, covered in cold sweat, in my own bed. I jumped up and ran to the window. Outside, everything was dark and silent. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. It was just a dream, I told myself. Just a nightmare. But it felt so real, so alive, as if I had truly been there, as if I had truly seen Crooked Grove. I never filmed paranormal investigation streams again. I never went to abandoned places again. I am afraid that one day I will find myself back in Crooked Grove. Afraid that Max and Alex are still there waiting for me. If you ever hear about Crooked Grove, run. Don't go there. Never go to Crooked Grove. That place is cursed. And it will take you. It will take you for sure. And now forgive me. I have to go. I think I hear whispering. We should never have gone there. We should never have disturbed what was hidden in Crooked Grove. Now I don't know if it was real or just a nightmare, but one thing is certain. Some places are better left alone. If you enjoyed this story and want more terrifying tales, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and comment below. Would you dare to go to a place like this? Stay safe. Don't mess with what you don't understand. And remember, never go to Crooked Grove.